Hello and welcome to my nail corner. Today we are doing a step-by-step chatty instructional tutorial on dip powder application. So a lot of you who've been watching my channel for a while now know all of these basics, but we get beginners in here a lot, and I wanted to give a step-by-step walk through the process where I actually talk about the process. I know a lot of times when I'm doing these videos, I'm talking about like a review of a new product or whatever, and I just wanted to talk step by step through the dip powder process. So right now I'm applying base. Each brand kind of calls it something different. The universal term is dip base. I am using Virgo and Gem liquids, and I love them. They apply really thinly. So especially if you have an overlay on my nail, like I do right now, I have builder gel on my nail and you don't want a thick application of dip powder on top, a thin applying base liquid is essential. So you'll notice I didn't actually dip my finger into the powder like you would think, like at a 45-degree angle in. I turn my finger kind of upside down by curling it under, and then I lay it flat on top of the powder. This helps prevent getting any kind of like ridge or bump in your nail, because if you apply your base and then you kind of shove it into the dip powder, it can move your liquid. I mean, it's still liquid on your nail until it hardens a little bit or dries. So you can kind of push that liquid, and then you're going to cause like bumps and ridges and things like that that you don't want, because it's just going to cause a need for longer filing and buffing. So that's a big tip. I highly recommend laying your finger into the powder instead of dipping it in. And if you get smaller jars, like these are 1/2 ounce jars from Revel nail, but if you get little minis and you're like, oh, it's really hard to lay my nail in that, or if you have really long nails, you can pour those out into a cupcake liner, and that allows the powders to spread out, and then you can lay flat into those. So highly recommend that method versus actually dipping in. You'll also notice I'm using an orange wood stick. You can use a toothpick or like a tiny dotting tool, whatever works best for you. But right after you dip, while the base liquid is still wet, you want to clean up around your edges like that. That's going to give you huge strides towards a clean cuticle line, which is just what everybody seems to be striving for when they're applying their dip powder. So that's a huge help. You want to apply your liquids nice and slowly and stay away from your skin as much as possible, but you know, sometimes it just happens. You might get it on your cuticle or whatever, or just have like a powder that gives you a little excess around the edges there, and so using an orange wood stick or a toothpick to go around the edges is a huge help. I'm doing something right now. Oh, I'm showing you this glitter because I love it so much. When I got Pomegranate, that's what this is. This is Embrace, which is from the Modern Muse kit, and then Pomegranate, which was in like a fall drop-in. I love Pomegranate so much. I change my manis frequently, but I think I left this one on for 5 to 7 days because I love it so much. I didn't want to take it off. It's just such a gorgeous glitter. I'm gonna wear it as much as I can. Anyway, something I'm doing right now I don't recommend, and so do as I say and not as I do. Typically what I would recommend is doing your solid color first, finishing that up, and then moving on to your glitter. This is going to help you keep from contaminating your solid powder, like in the jar, and your solid nails with glitter. I think I was just out of rhythm, but that's what I typically will try to do. So I would do those 3 solid nails, cap them in clear. I'll talk about capping in clear in a minute, and then activate them and then move on to the glitter nails. This is just going to help keep them separated. I did a horrible job of it today, so I apologize because I'm not setting a very good example. So I've gone ahead and done 1 full dip, and I did that in real time. This is sped up slightly, just ever so slightly, so we're not here all day, but just forewarning that it's a fairly lengthy video. I'm going to include filing and all the things, so hopefully it's a good point of reference if you have a friend that's like new to dipping or wants to know how to do it before she invests in the product. this would be a good video, hopefully, to show all of the steps and just let people know kind of what they're getting into in the process, and hopefully the way to do things to prevent some problems that are common. So while I'm doing the second dip, I want to talk about some common issues with liquids. So people will deal with their liquids getting gunky. That's from contamination. So you can't really see it. I'll try to zoom out so you can see it a little bit better. But after I touch my nail, when it has dip powder on it, so going into your second dip, you're touching your base to dip powder on your nail, and you can get contamination because that dip powder that's just excess from your first dip can get stuck to your brush and then get in your liquids, and that's going to cause them to get gunky. So what I do is take a quick swipe with that brush on a paper towel or a lint-free wipe before I put it back into the liquid jar. This is going to help keep glitters out of your base. It's going to help keep those pigments from getting in there and contaminating your liquids. It's just a really, really essential habit to get into from day one. If you just get used to wiping your base brush and your finish gel brush off before you put it back in your jar, you're going to save yourself. I can't remember the last time I got gunky liquids just because I do those steps. So highly, highly recommend that. So that's a big tip for liquids. Your activator is just activator. You can't really ruin it, but you can contaminate it with pigment and glitters. But we'll talk about that a little later on when we get into capping in clear. So I wanted to do a really basic application for you guys. So I just did that. I just did 3 solid nails and 2 glitter nails, but I wanted to do a tiny bit of ombre action for you guys. So I'll show you that. Another essential step is what I'm doing right here. So I am brushing off the excess powder. If you don't do that and then you go in with your base to apply your next layer, you're gonna get all this like clumpy excess powder that's loose on the top of your nail. And that's gonna cause, again, a need for a lot more filing and buffing time. So always, always brush off excess. I don't know if you noticed, but I switched out my brushes between the solid and the glitter. I have a brush that's specifically for glitter and a brush that's for solids. This again is going to help so that I didn't just brush off my glitter onto my solid nail. Anyway, this is a little technique I wanted to add in there. Ombre is a super common thing that people like to do. So I just have a little Wet n Wild eyeshadow brush that I purchased on Amazon for like under $1. I'm just dipping that into my glitter. Again, this brush is dedicated to glitter. I have another one I use for solids. And then just tapping my fingernail on the handle of the brush to just let glitter fall off into my nail. And then the nail I'm putting it on, I'm just rotating a little bit side to side to make sure I get where I want it. And let it naturally fall. So let gravity work for you and just let it like cascade kind of waterfall down your nail. Just until it's how you want it. There's no exact science to this, but I just recommend starting at your cuticle line and slowly working the other way, because if you just drop it in the middle of your nail, it's going to go everywhere and you can't undo that. I mean, you can file it off or whatever, but it's much easier to just start at the cuticle line and slowly inch your way towards the middle of the nail where you want the glitter to fall, rather than just like dropping it in the middle and having overdone it. So that is just a subtle glitter ombre method that I thought would be beneficial to show you guys in this basic mani, because it's just a really common look, and it's one I love, especially when you have colors like this that just coordinate so well together. I loved it. You'll see on the finished photos just how well this came out, in my humble opinion. So now we're going to talk about capping in clear. This is double dip clear dip powder. I love it so much. It's a really good price. It's $14.99 for a 2-ounce jar, and then Kate25 will get you 25% off on top of that. So it's just a really, really good deal, and it's crystal clear. Sometimes you'll get clears that will not come out clear and they'll leave like bubble looks on your solid mani, and nobody wants that. So I use 2 separate jars. Again, one is for solids and then one is for glitters. There are a lot of reasons to do this. You cap in clear to protect your pigments and your glitters from filing. If you file a glitter, it's going to turn silver. So if you have like a really pretty colored glitter, especially the chunky glitters, and then you file or buff them, you're going to turn them silver. Pigments, some you can kind of file through and it almost burns the pigment, and you're gonna like get a marbling look in your mani, and unless you're going for that, you're not gonna be happy. So you cap and clear, and then when you're filing, you're just filing and shaping the clear, not the pigment or the glitters. Additionally, clear acrylic is the strongest, so every other acrylic we're dipping into is weakened in a sense by pigment or by glitters, which is what makes them gorgeous. But clear is the strongest because it's not, I don't know what's the word, it's not mixed with anything else. So I highly recommend that. It's added strength to your mani. And then additionally, your next step is going to be, oh, let me tell you real quick. I like to use a stiff brush like this. It's like a toothbrush, but it's a mani brush. When I've done my clear dip, it just really helps keep that clarity, because if you have excess clear dip powder and then you activate it, sometimes you're going to get those little bubble looks. So I highly recommend like a stiff brush. You can use an extra toothbrush, whatever you have on hand, just to get that excess powder off. And then I'm activating. So this is another benefit to clear capping your mani, is that when you activate your nails, your activator is only ever coming in contact with clear. So you're not getting pigment in your activator or glitter. I do 2 coats of activator just to get like a really good saturation before I'm filing and buffing. 1 is probably good enough, but like I said, I like to do 2. So again, your activator is only coming in contact with your clear, so you're not going to get a glitter in your next mani that you don't want, or like a red pigment on a white mani because your activator was contaminated. So those are some of the reasons I highly recommend capping in clear. So keep that in mind and get a good clear dip powder on hand. So after you've activated, you can go ahead and file, shape, and buff your nails. I'm going to go through my filing process. This is real time. I took my time. I made sure that I shouldn't say I made sure. I tried really hard to stay in frame. When I'm not filing on camera, I usually have my hands a lot closer to my body, and I kind of brace my arm against my body. It's just the way I'm used to doing it, but I just tried to keep on film for you guys so you can just see a little bit of how I'm doing it. So I like this crescent shaped file. It's Macart, and it's a 100-180 grit from Amazon. I will try to link everything I used in this video down in the description box, but if I missed anything and you have a question, please feel free to drop a comment, because I'm happy to respond with links of where I got everything. Most of my stuff comes from Amazon if it's not, the dip powder or liquids that come from a specific company. So I go around the cuticle edge. Once you've used your activator, your dip powder hardens within a minute. And you can tap on it and hear like a clickety clack sound. It'll just sound different because it's hardened. And then you're good to go in and file. So I take that crescent side. I use the 180. Is it 180? Yeah, it's 180 is the finer side, the less coarse. That's the side I tend to use. You can go with whatever's comfortable, but I go around that cuticle line just to clean up anything around there. And then I wear like a tapered square nail, so I kind of go straight at my sidewalls and then angle it in when I get to past the part, like the free edge of your nail is basically where it's no longer attached to your finger. So on the sidewalls at the free edge, and then all the way to the free edge, I just kind of angle in so you can see me doing that, and then I just straighten off the free edge just like that. So I like a squared off edge. And that's what I'm doing there. So hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing enough to get the hang of it. If you want this look, this is the look that I tend to wear, so I'm sorry I'm not going to be like a great tutorial on how to do like an almond shaped nail or a stiletto. Yeah, I have never worn those looks, so maybe someday I'll like file each nail in a different shape and show you guys what I learned figuring those out. But for now, this is my shape, this is my method. But just take your time with filing, you guys. Like, this is the step you can really just clean up any, not mistakes, but just like any overflow, any like dip powder just makes you lose your shape because you're adding bulk to your nail. So a lot of people will ask, like, when do you file? And this is when I file. So if I'm changing the shape of my nail any dramatically, I will file that shape before I remove my prior mani. I just find that if you file your bare nail, you're either not gonna do it enough because you feel like you've already made that difference, but then you add the bulk of the dip powder and you'll lose that shape. So I like to always file with dip powder on my nail. Very, very seldom do I file my natural nail. And if you're gonna file your natural nail, I recommend like a really fine file. Even a glass file is probably the best and most gentle on your natural nail. So if you don't have a glass file, check out Bonafide on Amazon, and I will try to post a link to that as well below. I keep saying I'm going to post links, so I hope I remember all of these, but a glass file is definitely gentle on your nail, so that's highly recommended for your natural nail. This is the e-file that I like to use. It's off Amazon. Again, the link is down in my description box, and then this is just a diamond barrel shaped bit. It's my preference. If you try it and it's not comfortable for you, feel free to try something else. If you're doing dip powder removal, not just shaping your mani, I highly recommend a toothier bit, like a ceramic bit or a carbide bit. They're going to remove bulk. So if you're removing your dip powder by filing a bunch of it off before soaking, or just filing it off before your next application, then you want like a toothier. This is much smoother, like a finer grit. And then just go at the speed you're comfortable with. If you're new to an e-file, then you want to start slow and then build your way up. I use mine at about between 10 and 11,000 RPMs when I'm doing this shaping, but like when I started off, I was like 4 or 5 feels comfortable, because I didn't want to take like chunks out of the dip powder I just applied. So go at your comfort level. And then if you're a beginner and you're like, I don't have an e-file, I don't want an e-file, you don't have to use an e-file. So I went for years just using a hand file and a buffing block. So if you can get those two things, work with those, and you can get a really great application just by hand filing. So an e-file is not necessary, but I find it helpful and it speeds up my process. And I do my nails, a couple times a week. So it just speeds up my process. So this is what I like to do. So I'm going to let you guys watch me e-file. I've jabbered your ear off. My e-filing just kind of goes around the edge and really smooths out the cuticle line. So from where my cuticle is up to the dip powder, you don't want a big ledge, because if you have that, it can really contribute to lifting at your cuticle line. So really try to smooth that transition from your nail to the dip powder as much as possible. Make it look like that dip powder just like grew out of your nail, or grew out of your skin or your finger or whatever, just like it was meant to be there. You don't want a big like ledge up to there, otherwise things are going to get caught and kind of cause that lifting. So I said I was going to let you guys watch, but now I feel like I have more things to tell you. So lifting at the cuticle edge is a really, really common issue that people struggle with, especially when they're new to dip powder. And I need to do another video. I have one. I'll put it up in the cards here, that little eye that just popped up in the corner, on prepping your nail. So the really important part to prevent lifting is to prep your nail properly. So if you're applying dip powder to your natural nail, you need to make sure you remove any of the invisible cuticle. Yes, your cuticle grows up onto your nail. So I like Blue Cross cuticle remover and a cuticle pusher just to remove any of that invisible cuticle. I don't recommend filing your natural nail. I know some people like to do that. Personally, I don't feel it's necessary, and it can just over time thin your nail. You're just taking like a little bit off at a time, and it's going to cause your nails to become thinner and more fragile. So I personally don't file my natural nail. So I use the cuticle remover. I wash my hands. I use a toothbrush and whatever dish soap that I have on hand. A degreasing dish soap is essential. So I would use the degreasing dish soap over your nail, and it's going to remove any excess oils from your nails. If you don't have that on hand, then rubbing alcohol is another thing that you can use to just remove those excess oils. But those are the two things I would do. Make sure you do the cuticle remover first, and then either the washing or the rubbing alcohol to remove those oils, because the cuticle remover is a product, and you don't want any product on your nail when you go in with your base for application. So basically oils on your nail or any invisible cuticle, those things are going to contribute to your lifting, because then you're applying your product on top of those things instead of it actually adhering to your nail. So hopefully that makes sense. There are products out there that are like a bonder, like a pH prep or a dehydrator. Honestly, I think rubbing alcohol works just as well, but if you want to try those, if you're still having problems, then those are good products to try out. So again, I'm going to finish my e-filing here. I'll be done in just a beat because I only have one finger to go, and then I'm going to be back to talk about finishing up the mani. Alright, I am back already, and sorry you guys, I just feel like I've been droning on and on, but there's just so much to tell you. So, I am just dusting off that powder from having filed my nails, and then you want to go to your sink and wash. Now, when I say wash, I mean water and a scrub brush, not soap. Do not use soap. This is alcohol on a lint-free wipe. That is another option. If you're like, I don't want to go wash, or I don't have a sink nearby, whatever, you can use an alcohol wipe, an alcohol lint-free wipe. Don't use something that has any lint on it, or you're going to mess with the smooth finish of your top coat. So I prefer to go to the sink and wash. Water and like a scrubby brush like I use to get the clear dip powder off is your best bet, and that's my preference. You don't have to be gentle. You're not going to ruin what you just did. After you've washed or used your alcohol, you need to reapply activator. Activator is essential for your top coat, your dip top coat, to cure. If you opt to use a gel top coat, you can do that, so you would skip this activator, use gel base, and then gel top coat, and then be done. But dip top coat needs activator in order to cure. I am leaving this real time because people often are like, how long do I let my activator dry? First, your second activator, which is what I just applied here, it's the same product, I'm just the second time you apply it. You don't need a bunch. It's really just on the surface of your nail. It's not causing any extra hardening or anything. It is just so that your top coat is going to cure. So you let it set for like, I don't know, what was that, half a minute, and then I use a lint-free wipe just to wipe off any residue from the surface of my nail, and then you go in with your top coat. Dip top coat is applied like this. 2 to 3 quick swipes on the nail. You saw me wipe off my brush on the paper towel before it goes back in the jar. The reason I'm doing that is because top coat needs activator in order to cure on your nail, but activator getting into your top coat jar is like poison to your top coat, and it will cause it to get gunky and stringy and be unusable. So it's a fine line. You need the activator on your nail in order for your top coat to cure, but you don't want it getting back in your jar. So top coat is applied like that. 2 to 3 quick swipes to your nail in one coat, go through all 5 fingers, and then come back and you do a more thorough coating. You can make sure you get all the way to your sidewalls, cap your free edge like that. That's another thing that's going to help prevent lifting. It just seals in your whole mani, but you just do a more thorough second coat. To be clear, top coat has to be applied like this, 2 coats, not 3, not 1. If you want that flawless shine from a dip top coat, you need to do 2 coats. The first coat is quick, 2 to 3 swipes. Second coat is more thorough and getting all the way around your edges. And again, make sure you wipe off that brush before it goes into your top coat. I cannot preach that enough. Activator is poison to your top coat jar, but it's essential on your nails. So anyway, I hope I drove those points home and I hope that they're clear. So if you do your top coat application like this, you should get like great shine. I've not had any problem getting a good top coat application when applied properly. Yes, certain dip top coat brands are going to be shinier than others, but overall you can get a good top coat even from kind of poorer brands. I don't know how to put it, if you apply it correctly. So I let that dry for 1 to 2 minutes, really dip top coat. It dries fast. And then I always recommend finishing off your mani with a cuticle oil. My favorite is from Candi Skincare. Theirs is called Cuticle Candy, and it comes in all kinds of delicious scents. You can ask for custom scents and CJ will whip them up for you. She's a magician. And then I just rub that around the cuticle line and then underneath, because your skin goes up under your nail too. And if you have any excess product kind of lingering on your fingers, this helps break it down. So you guys, I really hope I answered any questions you might have about basic dip powder application. Thank you for listening to me talk all this time, and please drop any questions or comments in the description box for me, or not in the description box, in the comments. Thanks again, you guys. I'll see you next time. Bye now.